Welcome. I'm Dr. Layla Rack, Executive Managing Director of Strategic Advisory Services, a division of ALHI. Today, we are providing our members with a new product, an in-depth webcast with one of our advisors. The goal of Strategic Advisory Services at ALHI is to provide solutions to challenges our members face, whether they are operational, sales, or leadership focused. You received a webcast in September featuring one of our advisors, Karen Richardson, the founder of Richardson Talent Solutions. If you have not accessed the tape yet, I urge you to do so, as I'm confident you will learn something that will help you relative to talent management. It's only 30 minutes. And if you haven't, you should share it with your leadership team. Starting in January 2025, we will move to a subscription service. Of the 6 webcasts we will be offering starting early in the year. More information will be coming about that. But what I want you to know is each webcast will feature an advisor talking about their area of expertise. And we want to be able to help you move the needle on issues and challenges that impact your property's overall success. The series will run every other month, and the subscription entails you to live access to the advisor during the recording. You can ask them questions and get real-time answers. Then you will receive that tape as well, which you also can share with your leadership team. We will take advanced questions from any member who cannot attend the taping relative to the topic of the day. So I'm really excited. This month, we are highlighting one of our advisors that many of you might know. She is our own Armine Terzyan. She is Vice President of Sales Operations and Client Optimization for ALHI. And so welcome, Armine. I hope you're doing well.
Thank you, Layla. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Good enough. So why don't we just talk at the start with, tell us just a little bit about your career and your area of expertise.
I would love to. So my love for hospitality started at a very young age. I grew up in Las Vegas with some of the best resorts and hotels in the world right in my backyard. I always knew I would do something in this field, in this industry. I went to UNLV. I focused on hospitality. I even did a magnet program at my high school around hospitality and tourism. So it's been something that I've always wanted to do. What exactly, I never knew. And that's one of the joys, I think, with so many of us in this industry is we fall into positions that have led to our careers, and I'm an example of that. My career in hospitality started with MGM Resorts, and even prior to that, I worked at a travel agency, and I did data entry there for them. And then really it started off at MGM Resorts. I was there for 15 years in various capacities and roles. One day I applied for a data coordinator position. I didn't really know what that meant in the sales office. But then the more I started to work in it, the more I realized that I loved it. It gave me an opportunity to problem solve and fix things and break things apart and put it back together. And that's something that I have such a passion for, and it excites me. And that's kind of where I fell into my love of data, of processes, and efficiencies. After my time, or while I was at MGM, before I forget, we did at that time, a major transformation of our CRM solution. And the company of that size, that's about 1,000 employees of users that were impacted. So it was the coordination of not only teaching and something new to our team, but taking it all the way back and making sure we had the right processes. We were doing the right, we were creating the system to work and how we want it to work and not necessarily replacing what we had. If you want more, you're going to have to put some thought into how can we make this system work best for us and our needs at that time. And we rolled that out during my tenure there. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead. No.
After MGM, I had the opportunity to work for Amadeus Hospitality in a pretty unique role. I would equate myself as the liaison translator between our development team with our hospitality technology side. And I would work with our developers and help translate or explain some of the asks of our potential and existing members. So if someone was requesting a new feature, a new technology that would help improve, the day-to-day of their business, I would try to help explain that to the developers if this is what they really need it to be, and this is why they're asking for this, to help prioritize our backlog and work on, help the developer understand what the sales team or what the sales professional is looking for with some of our clients. So that was a fun, unique role at that time with Amadeus. And then I had the opportunity and pleasure to join ALHI just a little right at 4 years this month, 4 years ago. And I'll talk about the data journey we've been on here with our transformation here at ALHI.
Well, I think that's good for our members to know that you have a very deep background in the hotel on property as well as in the larger organization. So I appreciate that. I was really, you said something, Armine, that I have to just quickly go back to. We don't have to spend a lot of time. But you said my love of data, processes, and efficiency. So in really honest back to you, that's not something a lot of people ever say in our industry. And so I think it's wonderful, and it shows how the industry is changing, how it's becoming more sophisticated. But when you say that, like, do people's eyes glaze over, or do they get afraid, or?
Most people chuckle when I say
Okay.
that.
All right. Well,
because
that's
it is
good.
unique, right? But I do it. It is something that I'm passionate about, and I get so excited every time if it's here at ALHI or if it's working with a colleague or someone in our industry, and I get to and we're talking through a problem, and I get to break it down for them and help them find, even if it's creating a new field or how do we automate this or that. It's something I get really excited about because it does impact, from a bigger perspective, I like to see the impact it has on someone's day. If I have the ability, my motto has always, regardless of where I've worked, my motto is always the one less click. How can I help our sales efforts, our sales team have one less click in a system or in a process? And if I can remove just one, I like to then think that I've impacted someone's workday. And if I've saved them 15 seconds in a process that they repeat several times a day, that adds up. And we could use those minutes in other places. So that's what really is. Yes, I love processes and efficiencies, but I get even more excited about the outcome.
Well, I'm really glad we're just spending a minute on this because our members need to hear how practical you are, even though you talk geek. And I think that's really important because they can really engage with you as they are from their understanding. They don't have to worry about, will you say things or leave them behind without any understanding? And I think that's great of you to jump right into that. And I love that. In fact, if you're looking for a motto for yourself, one less click. I like that. All right. Well, let's move to that. Let's move to you talking about it. And you know, the webinar is designed to help our members. That's the whole
Mhm.
goal. And so I would like you to talk about what aspect of data management you see as most important to our members. This is from your perspective, knowing our members.
Knowing our members and working with so many of them, I'm going to bucket this into 3 categories of what's most important, and I'll kind of explain high level, and then I'll get into the details of what they each kind of represent. In order to have a robust, well, robust is one of my buckets. So in order to have all the different aspects of an important data management system, your system needs to be 3 things. It needs to be robust, it needs to be secure, and it needs to be effective. Those are how I bucket and look at a data management or process, or through those 3 lenses.
Can
Security
you
is
repeat that just one time?
Of course, your system needs to be robust, secure, and effective as the 3 components of data management from my view. Robust can mean so many things, but for me, I look at automation and I look at integration. Are you connected with your financial system, your accounting system? Do you have an integration with your hotel management system? What other sales elements are you looking at connecting? How are you tied into your reader boards? Those are some of the elements from an integration perspective. And to be robust, are you doing all data entry manual? What components are automated? What features can you look at to automate steps? That goes back to my 1 less click. What can we automate so you're not constantly having to enter this particular piece of information into your CRM? It's important, but when it becomes repetitive, how do you automate it? That's the robust aspect. Security is obviously number 1 for all of us in so many different ways. A lot of security, and I won't talk technical security as much, but that's obviously a component. That's more with most, chief technology officers and your technical support. But how does that relate to us in sales and in sales operations? I look at security from a standpoint of, are you storing sensitive information in your CRM? Do you need to? And if you do, are you compliant and meeting those compliances? And then what elements are we looking or in placing for just how you're, who has access to your system? Is your system available for all of your users? What information needs to go through certain control and access? Who can edit? Who can delete? Those are some pretty big things to review when setting up a good data management system. Your permission groups and your permission sets are key to the security. And then the third element, effective. That's kind of the biggest component to me is, what are you doing with this data? Data entry, great. It's robust. We capture it, but what are we doing? What is our data telling us? I like to review reporting tools in place. How are you running your data? Again, is there manual components that you can help automate in running your data? And are you using it? And is it set up to tell you your sales trends, your sales forecasting? What is it telling you about your customer? I like to kind of, that's what makes your system effective. What are you able to, after that data entry and the security, the last piece is, what do you do with it? What's the outcome? What does it tell us from an effectiveness perspective? One element that sometimes can get lost is your client information. We have some of the best professionals and sales professionals I've worked with have been in hospitality. There's the best of the best can always quote me on the top of their head. You name a client, they'll tell you their favorite drink, where they went to school, what their favorite sports team is. We're a relationship-based industry, and the best sales professionals know that information in the back of their head. and can recite it quickly. But how do we capture that? How do we enter that into our system? That's what makes it effective. If you have birthdays, for example, how do we use that? How do you make it easier for your sales team and your sales, we're leaner, we're running faster. How do you get information in their hands as quickly as you can, making it more effective? And the last piece, Layla, and I'll let you ask some questions. I know I've covered a lot of detail, is for your system to be effective, you also need to, in some capacity, and it varies for each member, it's a communication tool. How are you using that as your single source of truth to communicate between all your interdepartments within your sales team, with your operations team? How is your marketing team tapping into your sales client information? What are we doing with our bookings to communicate with our convention services and conference services team members, our catering departments? How do we all work seamlessly from a technical communication standpoint? It's the kind of last piece within effectiveness.
In about 10 minutes, you educated and you gave a blueprint for our members to really think about their data management process as it exists.
Mm-hmm.
So have you ever done this? You talked about it has to be robust, secure, and effective, and you gave us examples or ideas of what that meant. So I'm just going to do one. Under service, secure, I apologize, can't read my own writing. Who has access to your system? Who can edit and delete? Those two questions. When's the last time you checked the access to your system? So what you've done is you've provided not only a blueprint, but then the next level. Have you done this? And not just secure, but I mean all three.
Yes, I have. And that's part of our journey here at ALHI. When I started, we started with those three lenses. And you kind of have to take the bigger task, and it is big to start. It's very overwhelming to say, I'm going to reimagine my data and how my system is set up, and look at my data architecture and start changing things around using this new blue. It's a big undertaking and it could be overwhelming. I find it best to break it down in those kind of pillars and then the layers within each one. I've done it several times. I've helped not only here at ALHI, we did that. We went through and we looked at our permission groups, how we're set up as an organization. How do we classify our accounts here? And we've completely redone our account and contact structure, access and permission groups just here at ALHI recently as an exercise we went through. So it is something I have great familiarity with.
Okay. So your expertise is based upon practical, actual application.
Yes.
Because you're not just someone who's providing ideas because you have knowledge of something. You've actually, if you'll allow me, got your hands dirty.
Yes.
And data can be dirty, but I don't think it gets your hands dirty. So when I know that as a company, I hope I'm not spilling any secrets here, but our data needed review.
Yes.
All right. And I know that you led that charge, and review is a rather mild word. And so what you've done, if I could, I'm not going to talk about how you did it because that's what you can do for our members. But when I look at what you've done and recognize I am not one of our wonderful sales professionals, I am not. So my understanding is very small. But we have become a record-breaking organization in the past year. And I believe a great deal of that happening is because our sales professionals have better data that they're able then to translate into productivity. Am I correct on my thinking, or am I whacked out here?
Oh, no, you hit it right on the head. So that's exactly what we've been able to do with our, yes, and, you know, and I'll talk about my favorite topic in a little bit too. And you're giggling because that's how long we've known each other. You know where I'm gonna go with this. But every organization has an opportunity to pause and review. You don't have to do the whole thing. You don't have to boil the entire ocean of your data all in one shot. You can dedicate a specific time frame for your reports, a different time frame for how you look at your security of your data and review your access and permission, your access levels and permission sets. It doesn't have to be all at the same time. They're all their own individual tactical project. And that's what we did here at ALHI. We started with our biggest pain point, which was our accounts and contacts. It was hard to report. They were a mess. We had a mess in the sense of we had duplicate accounts, which is everywhere I've ever worked, or customer, even on the Amadeus side, that hotel that we interacted with. Duplicate accounts and contacts is a thing in our industry. It's dirty laundry everyone has in their system. So we took a different approach here than what we had at ALHI, and we consolidated where it was appropriate, and are looking at the ownership between accounts and contacts differently, which has helped now our team too with how we assign territories and how we look at our bookings and our potential opportunities with customers to be a little bit more nimble than we were before, where you would get kind of stuck in this data. Because sometimes when you're looking at reports, it could become that that quicksand. It could kind of either help you, or it's quicksand and it'll pull you into some analysis paralysis. When you're looking at too much, it's too much to make a decision. It's overwhelming. So that's kind of what we had to pause and started with our data transformation.
You know, I think, very frankly, I love talking to you about these things because it makes me realize, and something just entered my head. Because of what you did and how you helped our sales professional deal with this big change, because it's an enormous change. But you also, I want to, so we talked about all the tangible things, but you're really good at managing change. But what I want to point out here is, in the end, all of this has helped our members because our sales professionals are far more effective. Now, that's not the only thing. I'm not putting it at the top of the pantheon, but from what you've just said, what do you think, what aspect of data management do you think is the least understood in our industry?
So Layla, I can't talk about data if I don't talk about hygiene. And we've kind of hinted to it a few times in our conversation. Data hygiene is the one that's least understood. And the problem that we always add to when I have time, I will get to do this. When I have time, I'll review our duplicate accounts. I need to put in this booking real quick. I'll capture the details of the account and their headquarters later. I need to throw in this contact because I need to do something. I'll capture their title and where they're located at a different time. So that later that I'll get to leads to a really big pile of laundry that eventually needs to get done, where you have all this information in your system where it's either missing or broken. And that's where that data hygiene comes into play, because eventually it's going to impact your ability to report accurately, to look at your trends and make good business decisions. It just may not be impacting you today, but it's definitely a future you problem or future leader challenge, because it's taking your sales system administrator or your coordinator or someone on your team to run some data. And if they're running not knowing that we 2 months ago put in a bunch of contacts with missing information, And now we're trying to set territories and reassign who's working what account. We're going to make some misguided assumptions based off of bad data. So data hygiene is the least understood because it's the thing we have to do, but it's not the most pressing at the very moment that we're touching and interacting with our data. It's something that get really excited about personally, because that's where I think when we look at processes, that's where you have a big opportunity to have a change. It's not fun to go through and update hundreds, sometimes thousands of records because we've missed the wrong market segments and we labeled something corporate versus incentive. And now it looks like an industry is doing really well and we have sales efforts around a potential initiative that necessarily was miscoded. So that's where data hygiene can have a big impact if we're not, one, careful with it, two, have processes in place. The cleanup is great, but the cleanup means nothing if we don't have processes to continue maintenance. So yes, we went through, we deduped our accounts, we've gone through and deduped our contacts and we made sure that that's clean. But if we don't have processes in place to avoid making the same mistakes, if we're not teaching our team or getting that change management you alluded to a little bit ago, that's not in place, you're going to be in the same position from a data hygiene perspective in 6 months to a year if we're not actively have some maintenance going on. So cleanup is the least understood, but it does have impact.
I would think two things. Individually, I would think that kind of a problem is enormously frustrating for every person involved in the sales operation.
Oh, yes.
One. Two, I can't imagine how much cost there is to not doing it. And that's why, as you talk about it, and you framed it beautifully, when I have time, I need to do something else. It's much more important today. And later I'll get to the big pile of laundry. I loved how you said that. Well, I can let my laundry go, and all that means is there's only certain clothes I can wear if we're going to be realistic or, get to the actual point of laundry. But if I'm thinking about my own profitability, my organization's profitability, if I'm thinking about cost cutting, it doesn't matter to me. Much more macro objectives, strategic objectives, and I've put off data hygiene. I am going to be, the one with no clothes. In essence. So the way you said that, I hope our members hear the practicality. And yes, it takes time and there is a process, but it doesn't take forever.
No. And the more frequent you do it, the less of a chore it is.
Oh, wow. Interesting. I'll try to do that with my own laundry. I'm going to now turn to my favorite practical and useful question. If you could tell our members to do only one thing in data management that would help them succeed more, what would it be?
One thing is tough.
Yeah, I know.
But I'll take my best stab at it. Right now, this is the time period, right? At this point of the year is when we pause to look at our budgets set for next year. This is where we revise, if we need to, our sales territories, if it's geographic versus vertical. This is the time where we run a lot of reports. This is the time where data is gold in our industry as we are getting ready for the year ahead. And I'm going to pick on data hygiene as my one thing to focus on. Take some time as you're prepping for next year, as you would for setting your budget, as we are for changes to our sales territories, as I mentioned. Do the same to where you pause and look at what are your opportunities, 1 to 2, from a data management process that you can implement next year. It could be around, making it more robust. Do I have an opportunity to make an automation, even if it's a validation rule that says, every time someone enters this account, I want this information to be updated somewhere else. How can I automate? I think as you're budget setting, as you're developing your strategic initiatives for next year, don't take that off the table. I think it's also a good time to review and evaluate your data needs. What do you want your system to do for you? How can we make a change that's gonna impact your sales team? Minutes are rare now, right? So how can we get the best use of the minutes that we have our team? It could be your support team, it could be your sales, your people in the field. How can we save them minutes? And is there an opportunity to do that with some data optimization, some data hygiene?
So I think that's wonderfully positioned, but I do, when I listen to you, it is practical.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't have any deep expertise in data management, or I don't have anyone on my staff, what should I do? I mean, I hear you and I can be practical. And I loved, I would pick a change that you said to them that you can put in place. Okay. So if they don't have experience or they don't have someone on their team they can turn to, how should they think about this?
It's a great question. What I would recommend, sometimes that you're not necessarily the person that puts together the strategy. You need someone that can help you put together a strategy of how you're going to practically implement changes. That's where I can be of value as a member of our strategic advisory group. I could be a great resource to review and ask the questions, just like we did too, in evaluating a system on this call, and find out what those opportunities are and help put together some consulting time for the two of us to meet and to discuss what can we make happen for your hotel and put together that strategy for you to then implement. That's where strategic advisory group as a division of ALHI could be a benefit to our members. You're not alone in this.
Mhm.
This is my area of expertise and something I hope I've demonstrated that I am very passionate about, and I would love to do the problem solving or help along the problem solving at our member hotels.
Well, Armine, this has been wonderful. And I'm going to tell you what, because we are starting this series next year and you will be on it again. We must follow up to what you've talked about here. But I do want to say to our members, one service we provide is a 20-minute call. And so if you've heard this and now you want to talk to Armine, know what you're looking for, and she'll spend 20 minutes with you. Now, that's her providing consulting advice. If you just want to know more, she'll spend as much time as you need about what she can do for you. And the best way I can tell any of our members, if you don't have Armine's email or contact information, just send it to me, Layla at alhi.com. And that's LALIA at alhi.com. I'll make sure she gets it. Trust me. I'm going to close this out here, Armine, and I again want to say you gave such useful practical advice. And that is what we are about at Strategic Advisory Group. So we do hope you find the webcast worthwhile. And if you want more information about the webcast, let me know. We will be coming out with a list of topics and dates before the end of this year, easily. But I want you all to know, you might have by now received it. I really don't know, but I want you to know you'll be able to target those you want to attend live. and then listen to those that you can't. So until next year, which is not that far away, I ask you just to stay tuned for more information. And if you do not receive it, to please contact me. Once again, it's Layla, Lalia, at ALHI.com. We're delighted to have been with you, and on behalf of my colleague Armine, thanks for listening. Take care.